In this episode, I talk to Ayo the CEO and co-founder of Afrimash, the Amazon of Nigeria and soon to be Africa, with the big dream of making agriculture convenient for everyone. Over the course of this conversation, we talk about how businesses need to adapt to the unique circumstances of Africa, the role of venture capital, and if it needs to change to succeed in Africa, and the unique challenges presented by agriculture and starting a business in this sector in Africa. Please enjoy this insightful conversation. Have you always been involved in agriculture?
That's an interesting question. Because my first degree was veterinary medicine. And then at some point, I started a poultry farm and I did that for a couple of years. And later I started Afrimash. Then after then, I've taken on quite a number of training in business. Um, though already my background, so my parents, both of my parents are businessmen. So I grew up in a family of businessmen. But after I started Afrimash, I've gone through a lot of training, both in Nigeria with the Pan Atlantic University, and I've also had a training with Columbia Business School in New York, and all for in the areas of business and entrepreneurship the last couple of years.
Colorful resume. What was the reasoning behind going from a poultry farm to starting the Amazon of farming? Why did you think Afrimash was needed?
Yeah. Now you ask me about my story. And that's also quite interesting because I studied veterinary medicine, I felt that starting a poultry business was going to be easy for me and I was going to find success easily. So, and that's particularly because I had a background in business with my parents. I had training in veterinary medicine where we basically take care of chickens' health. So that means that I should automatically succeed in poultry farming, right? But 3 years down the line, almost 4 years down the line of doing a poultry business, I was faced with one major problem. That was access to quality farming inputs. All through the years I was running my poultry farm, I had just one desire that only if there was a platform like Amazon where I could order for my farm inputs, my chickens, the medicines, the equipment, the feeders, and the drinkers, and they would deliver to my home or deliver to the farm. That would make my life a lot easier. I desired that for 3 years. I didn't have that. And as if that wasn't enough, in 2015, I had a major disease outbreak on my farm. Now, for the next 4 months, I was looking for the right medicine to treat the outbreak on that farm, and I could not find it anywhere. I went from store to store. We had only brick and mortar stores at that time. And I went from the first store to the next one to the third one to several of them, and I couldn't find that medication. And to my utmost pain, really, that year I had to shut down the farm. That was the only remedy to the issue I had on the farm. When I shut down the farm, my next hunches, the next thing I did was to set up a platform that brings together farmers and suppliers, everybody online, where they can communicate with one another so that next time a farmer has an issue, it's easy for him to just go online and talk to the input suppliers or other farmers and find a solution to what he wants. That is really how I moved from studying veterinary medicine, starting a poultry farm, and then building a platform that connects. Initially, I focused on poultry farmers. And over the years, we moved from poultry farming. I later included fish farmers. I later included crop farmers. And now we have a full blown platform that supports farmers regardless of the supply chain where they're playing. But they can come and get their fertilizers, get their chemicals, get their DO chips, get their medicines, and all those things that can make their life easy running their farms. That's just really how I got here.
Can you give us more insight into the system that Afrimash is replacing?
Yeah, beautiful. So before Afrimash, the way a farmer gets his inputs, which are the chemicals or the deotics and all of this, would be to go to a brick and mortar store that is close to him or her, right? They would go to a brick and mortar store within their locality. The problem with that system is that these brick and mortar stores have limited capacity. They can only house just a few number of products. The number of inventory that they can hold is very limited. Whereas for the farmer, what he needs can be unlimited, especially when he has an issue on his farm. For me at that time, I needed a medicine that was not available in all the brick and mortar stores within my locality. I left my locality, went even to neighboring states, and I still could not find all this medicine. What Afrimash does differently for them is that the farmer stays in the comfort of his home or his farm, and he has access to thousands of products. He has access to thousands of options. He has access to the best in class produce or inputs that he needs for his farm. He sees the latest invention right from the comfort of his home. He doesn't have to go to a trade fair to find these things. He doesn't have to go to multiple stores to find these things. Every time we send him updates and he can see, oh, I've been using this kind of drinker. There's a new version. This is a better version. It gives me more productivity. And then he sees that all from the comfort of his home. Now, when we started Afrimash, at first, we only had an online platform. So it only worked for farmers that had internet access. But over the years, we realized that we had more and more farmers that even don't have internet access. So what we now did was to create offline channels that farmers can use to shop on our platform. So for example, farmers can shop by calling our inside sales on the phone. When they call our inside sales team on the phone, they speak with a professional who has access to our platform and can see all the latest products, all the latest inputs on our platform. The person shops, that's it places an order on the behalf of that farmer, and then we deliver to the farmer anywhere he is across Nigeria. In addition to that, to phone call, we now have agents within the farmer's locality. Now, we require that these agents have access to the internet and then they can download these products so they can view them offline. But what the agents do for us is to take orders again for farmers because the agents have access to all the thousands of products that we have. Now, these farmers are not that they are no more limited to the inventory of the input suppliers within their locality. Now they have access to thousands of products on the Afrimash platform. They can place an order. We can deliver to them anywhere they are, right from the comfort of their farm or the comfort of their homes. I hope you got that.
I do get it, and I am really curious about how you make delivery work. Like a lot of when people talk about Amazon, one of the areas that they really struggle in is emerging markets because delivery is more difficult. The model of just putting in your address doesn't necessarily work because some people don't have addresses. And delivering to very rural households is much more expensive. How has Afrimash managed to get around an issue that one of the biggest companies in the world really struggles with?
Yeah, delivery in Africa is even more difficult. So we had to find ways around it. But really, basically, we do three things. One, we have delivery partners. So we partner with third party logistics companies who deliver directly to farmers at home or deliver to people at home. So we have quite a number of partners that we work with. Secondly, we have pickup centers. So like delivery centers where we deliver items to within within different localities where farmers can really go and pick up their items, which is also very close to them. And then thirdly, because we have agents, when the farmer places an order through an agent, The agent can go to the delivery center and pick those items in bulk, or we can deliver to the agent's location, and then the agent takes it to the farmer because they are really within the same locality. So we use those three channels right now: our third party partners, our delivery centers, and then the agents that we work with. They help us to ensure that we're able to reach anyone that places order on our platform.
And is this network efficient enough to keep the costs down so most farmers can access what's on the Afrimash platform?
Well, so at first, our cost was really high, but what we have seen is that over the years, our cost of delivery keeps coming down. As our volume goes up, delivery cost is coming down. It's been the trend over the years. And as we grow and as we scale, we know that this will continue to reduce and become more beneficial for the farmers, so that they have to pay less and less and less amounts for us to ship items to them.
So you're able to access an economy of scale, and you just see the marginal costs coming down. That's really interesting. Is this agent network that you're using, is it the same as the agricultural field agent network?
So for our agent network, quite a number of them are agri extension workers. However, we do not require that their extension workers to become an agent. But quite a number of them are agri extension workers who are already working with the farmers. They already provide advice to the farmers. And becoming an agent for Afrimash means that they also earn more revenue as they consult for those farmers. So, because all that they have to do is really to just place an order for the farmer at the same price that we sell online, and they get their commission. Because what we do is to share our commission with the agents. We do not increase the price to the farmer. The farmer gets it at the same price, but whatever commission Afrimash is making, we now share that with the agents that brings the farmer. Mhm.
And so you have studied in Columbia, in New York, and you've studied business. When you look at the business model that Afrimash uses, what are some really unique aspects, because it operates in Nigeria, in Africa, that people in Europe or America would never really consider? Or even, are there any that you can think of?
Well, if I think about our model, I think our business model is unique. Um, First, I call our channel, our platform, an omni-channel platform that enables farmers to shop online, or that enables people to shop online, whether or not they have internet access and whether or not they are internet savvy. With Amazon, you need to be internet savvy and you need to be online to shop on Amazon. But for us, if you only get hold of a phone number, you can shop on our platform. If you work within your community and you see a banner of an agent, and then you can see that, oh, this agent has access to this number of item, you can shop on Afrimash through that agent. So, and all these channels are intertwined. That's why I call it omni-channel. They are intertwined. If you can start shopping through USSD, and then you complete it through a phone call, all everything runs through the same e-commerce engine. And that is a unique business model required in Africa. You probably don't need that in the UK, where you have high internet penetration. You don't need that in the US. But we need that here. That's one way to look at it. The other thing you also want to look at is the fact that the space that we play in is very, very peculiar. The farmers, like I said before, they may not be digitally savvy, and sometimes even when they call you on the phone, you place their order, they get all the alerts on their phones, they get all the notifications on their phones. But again, we have to serve them with that mindset that we are dealing with quite a number of digitally illiterate people, but we have an overriding mission. Our mission is to make agriculture convenient for everyone. and we want to ensure that whether the farmer has access to internet or not, whether the farmer is digitally savvy or not, that's not supposed to be the farmer's problem. That's supposed to be our own problem. We need to give the farmer access to whatever he needs so that he can have a productive and a smooth farm. So that's just really the way we look around. We look at the work that we do.
Make agriculture convenient for everyone. For everyone. And you want to take that to all of Africa.
To all of Africa.
Are there any particular areas in Africa that you see as the next step after Nigeria?
First, we want to take advantage of the AFCTA, that's the African Free Trade Agreement area, and that is headquartered in Ghana, in Accra, Ghana. So because of that, we have our eyes on Ghana already. Really, just to take advantage of that agreement, we want to make sure that even though that is not in full swing at the moment, and there are a lot of concerns when it comes to the AFCTA agreement, but we want to make sure that we are positioned for it at any point in time when that takes off. That will enable us to be able to do business with people across all of Africa, across all the countries that have signed that agreement quickly. So that's one. Secondly, and that's within West Africa, then we also have our eyes on East Africa. Now we have not decided on where, but we have our eyes on East Africa uh, as soon as possible.
From west to east. Interesting. And can you tell me more about the team that you have brought with you on Afrimash? You haven't done all of this by yourself. Who are the people that you found to go on this journey? And how did you know that they were the right people?
Interesting question. It makes me to sit back, right? Yeah. So I typically say that Afrimash is not the name Afrimash, and Afrimash is not the building, and Afrimash is not me as a person. Afrimash is actually the people. It's the people that we have worked together over the years to build what we have today. You know, when I started Afrimash when I began work on Afrimash in 2016, it was just me alone actually. And then in a few months, I brought in a couple of interns. Then in 2018, my brother, who is a software engineer with plenty of experience, came on board to help to build our technology. As soon as we realized that we are building the company that will scale and will be successful, it was important to bring in someone who would provide support in building a scalable, strong, and good technology that we can scale across Africa. So he came on board in 2018, and that's my brother, who is the CTO right now. And then in 2022, we brought in a chief commercial officer who also came in on board and joined the C-suite, who has lots of experience in sales, in marketing, and supply chain. That's his background, and that's really to just really help us to scale our supply chain and our sales within Nigeria and outside of Nigeria. Now, aside these three people who are currently in the C-suite, um, I, I have quite a number of managers who probably have been here for 3 and 4 years, thereabout, and these guys have deep passion and competence in the work that we do. Two of them were also attended Columbia Business School along with me in 2022, and also they have business education. They have MBAs, and these are strong men managing different teams. We have the sales team, we have the marketing team, we have the partner experience. Partner experience team for us is like the procurement team in most other companies. We have the procurement team. We have our logistics guys who work with the third party guys that deliver for us. And then we now have all the supporting departments like the tech department and then human resource department, finance department, and all of that. Then in addition to that, in the last 2 or 3 years, we realized that we have been having relationship, more and more relationship with the likes of the World Bank, USAID, um, yeah, Oxfam, and various DFIs across the world. So we now have a new department that is more like a programs and corporate department that manages that relationship with all of these partners that we have, ensures that when we have a project, we deliver on those projects. And when there are opportunities for us to latch on a project that can help us to grow the business, we latch on those opportunities that help us to grow the business. So that's how we have generally structured the company. But we have three C-suite members at the moment, and mostly managers and senior managers managing different parts of the business.
Okay. Can you just clarify what DFI stands for? Development Institute. Ah, okay. Okay. Okay.
They are mostly interested in development, and they work with a company like Afrimash because our work is even though it is a for-profit business, but we work in a development space. For example, the SDG 2, which is uh, no hunger, is one of the main things that we are focusing on. Then no poverty, SDG 1 is another SDG that we are promoting. Then decent work and economic life, right? That's SDG 8. Again, that's something else that we are focusing on. So quite a number of those SDGs that we are promoting, they look at those things and then come to partner with us to also execute some of the projects that they have or the mission that they have ahead of them.
Okay. And just to clarify, the SDGs are the Sustainable Development Goals for 2030, implemented or aimed for by the UN and all its organizations. I want to ask, since you mentioned that two of your executives and yourself are educated in Columbia University, correct?
Yes, correct.
This is something I've come across in a lot of the companies and entrepreneurs that I have talked to in Africa. How central is the role of educational institutions that are in Europe and the US to the entrepreneurial space in Africa right now?
Important question. And why I say that is that even when we were going through our training with the Columbia University, the facilitators and lecturers also acknowledged that some of the things that we're learning could be different from the context that we have in Africa. And we had to learn having that mindset, right? So, truth is that um, our context varies a lot from what you probably see in the US or you see in the UK. But the good thing is that we having access to that knowledge of context in other places helps to broaden our own mindsets. So if I look around me here in Nigeria, many of the CEOs and of the top companies here in Nigeria, they have foreign education, right? And what that foreign education in the US and the UK does for most of us is to just really broaden our horizon beyond what typically happens here. We're able to compare what is going on in our businesses and businesses that we know with possibilities in other parts of the world. But when we now return to execute, we contextualize when we execute. But without the education, we probably would not be able to see the level of the level of achievement that is possible based on what some other people have achieved in other parts of the world. For example, in the last couple of days, I've been talking with some of my colleagues about processes, structures, and efficiency. That's not something that is very common in a place like Africa. In other parts of the world, like Germany and the US, there's a lot of focus on processes, a lot of focus on structures. So, for example, you have timed this call and you expect that this interview will not take more than 1 hour, right? But yeah, I mean, everything is timed. If you go into a restaurant, everything is timed in most parts of the world. The person who is going to serve you food or is going to serve you whatever is going to serve you has a limited amount of time that he or she can spend per customer. Now, some of those things are things that I see much more in other um, companies and other entrepreneurs outside of Africa. And we are trying to imbibe that into what we do here. So that's just to give you an example of how we're able to learn from what is happening in other parts of the world, and then we contextualize that to what we do here in Nigeria and in Africa.
I really appreciate how you put that. I'm just wondering, is how close can someone with an education solely in Nigeria get to the level of insight that you talk about now, or even Africa as a whole? What do you think?
Well, I think sincerely that today the world is a global village, and if anyone who schooled in Africa has enough time to learn online, they would learn all of these things sincerely. If they have enough time to learn online, they will learn all of these things. But they may not have enough time to learn online, talking about learning. And then for schooling in outside of Africa, aside what you learn, one thing that we always look out for is the network, your classmates, the network. It also gives you a bit of credibility. You know, if I talk to an investor who is based in New York, and the investor knows that I had some education in Columbia University, he would feel more comfortable with me than a founder who has not had any education outside of Nigeria and is speaking with the same investor. So that's one of the main big difference I can see. But when it comes to education now, you can learn many things online. But when you go into the class, you can learn the same thing. You can meet the people. I mean, network with your classmates and even your professors and other people. And also, you also now have a bit of credibility that investors, most most of the venture capitalist funds now come from the Western world, right? And if you will have that one day, you probably want to have gone into spaces that make them feel comfortable. And that's like going through a foreign education. So I try to balance what I said earlier with the question that you asked, so that you have a balanced perspective.
No, I appreciate it so much. Thank you very much. And when you were in Colombia, were a lot of your classmates, were they interested in Africa? Has your network been useful growing Afrimash?
Now, the program that I went for at Columbia University was also particularly designed for Africa. Yeah, so most of the people in my class were not necessarily Africans, but they all had businesses in Africa and they had experience running businesses in Africa. And to answer your question, the network has been super helpful. I finished in ending of last year, and the Afrimash already is in a partnership with some of our classmates, and we're already doing business together. So that's been super helpful, super helpful.
That's amazing. Very happy to hear that. Even me, I just graduated from Imperial College, and I'm already seeing how useful the network I gained from Imperial is. I didn't really appreciate it whilst I was there until after I left. So it's good to see that that's a common feeling. I really wanted to ask about venture capital. It's in the context of Africa. Speaking to some people, they are not sure, or not saying they're not sure, they don't think that venture capital is an applicable model for Africa. It's not what African companies need. They would go to, they would prefer something like credit or debt. It's thinking that it's more appropriate for companies. Do you have an opinion on that?
Well, um, I understand whoever said that. I understand why they say that because traditionally in Africa, you do not want to bring in a partner who would probably take over your business. That's kind of like the general thinking, you know. And I remember when I started Afrimash, and maybe this will help to answer your question, really. When I started Afrimash, my first hunches was let's build the company organically without VCs, without external funding. We can take debts, and then let's grow the company organically. But a few years into the business, I realized that while that is very possible, the way to grow really fast, benefit a lot of farmers, and bring tangible benefits to our potential customers quickly is really to take on equity investment. Now, like me, many people in Africa also feel like, yeah, I can grow my business, I can do all I have to do without VCs. But when you get to the point where you begin to think about the speed of growth, the size of the markets, the impact that you want to make as a person, and the limit of human life, you know, how long is human life itself, right? The place where you start to think about, okay, if I bring in a bit of extra cash, I might be able to achieve much more in my lifetime than I would achieve if I try to go the slower route. I hope that answers the question very well.
You you think about growth and speed a little bit more than the people that I have spoken to in the past, Ray. It was more of a sense of doing things at a gradual pace instead of trying to growth that VC tries to accomplish.
So exactly. So that's the difference. If you look at growth and speed, then you see the need to have VCs. But if you want to go steady, then you probably don't want VCs. But if you really want to impact a lot of people, I mean, for me lately, I look at how many farmers we have impacted over the last couple of years, and then how many farmers are actually facing the problem that we are solving. Then I feel like I'm doing a huge injustice to these farmers if I insist that I'm not going to take on VC funding to grow faster. It's a bit of injustice to the farmers, in my own opinion.
Okay. Can you give us an idea of the numbers of farmers that you've helped?
So right now, um, we have about 25,000 going to 30,000 farmers that are registered on our system and transacting with us. Some of them, maybe about 10% of them, or a bit over, close to 15% of them, have shopped with us consistently, and the rest of them get other kind of benefit from us. For example, they get advice, they get information from us, and they are in our network already.
And what's how have you grown that over the years? Has that been very fast to get to 25,000?
No, no, that hasn't been very fast. So, for example, at Afrimash, we haven't raised external investments. We're just looking to raise now. So everything that we have grown so far has been organically, um, really ensuring that we make profit on every transaction, and then we plow that back into the business, and then we make profit, and then we put that back into the business. That's everything that we have done up till now. So it wasn't up till until towards the end of last year that we decided that this pace is good, but if we bring in external funding, we can do a lot better. So that's when we began to look for external funding.
How old is Afrimash?
We officially incorporated in 2019. So this year will make it 4 years that we officially incorporated, even though we started working on Afrimax from 2016, but from incorporation to the date is 4 years.
And how has it been just personally investing everything back into the business? Have you found it exciting? Have you found it scary? The best thrill of your life? How has it been for you?
I think one, it's been interesting and also very challenging, right? When I say interesting, you look around you and quite a lot of people are raising external funding even before they get to the size of Afrimash. They they can't go on without support from the external world, right? Yeah. And whilst they all are doing that, we are able to grow year on year. Right now, we have about 50 staff. Um, and this is, most people don't get to 10 staff before they raise, external funding. So we go on year, um, turning our profits, turning it over and over, increasing our staff strength, increasing our customer strength, meeting all of their needs. So it's been interesting. But again, it's been challenging because there are some things that we probably could have done a lot better if we had external funding that we have not been able to do. There are opportunities that came in the last 4 years that we probably could have latched onto if we had the funds to latch on them, but we don't latch on them. So it's been both interesting and challenging all along, really.
Okay. And on the topic of funding, a lot of people, when they talk about Africa, they speak about the funds are there, but they're difficult to access or people don't know about them. Is this something that you've struggled with since you've started looking for funding?
I think that is very true. If you remember the first analogy I gave you, if you don't have a foreign education, the VCs who have the funds are not as comfortable with you as they would be with someone who has foreign education in US or in the UK. If your business is registered in Nigeria and is not incorporated in the US, then the US VCs are worried that they are not familiar with the laws of Nigeria. If anything happens to their funds, how are they going to recover their funds? They want you to come and register your business in the US before you can access that fund. Well, that is not really so much of an issue, but if you look at the world of investing and the data that we have, very, very little investments comes to Africa. Very, very little comes to Africa. And I think, from what I've seen, that is simply because the investors have a bit of a cold feet investing in Africa. They always feel more comfortable, and it's natural for anyone to feel more comfortable with what they are familiar with. And then for what you are not familiar with, you feel a bit uncomfortable. So maybe the work that we have to do here as founders and entrepreneurs in Africa is to find a way to get investors confidence, to get them to be more comfortable with us, find a way to make them feel comfortable doing business with us. I think that is the hard work that we have to do. But really, the funds are there, but the investor takes a lot of time before he decides to give an African person or a black person fund, and it's not their fault. It's how the mind works. So I totally understand that.
Are you registered in the US? But you plan to be registered in the US?
Yes, yes.
Um, is there, because one thing you mentioned was the hesitation for investors in Africa is just a lack of familiarity. with the local laws, customs, how they would recoup their funds if things didn't go to plan. Is there a homegrown investor base in Africa that is looking at young companies to invest in, not the traditional resources in like the context of Nigeria, investing in oil? Uh, are you seeing that people taking on more riskier bets with their money in Africa?
So truly, we have some homegrown VCs, investors in Africa. It's a very small number, very very small number, and the size of the size of their fund is also limited. Um, they probably don't even have very huge fund like some of the VCs that we have in other parts of the world, right? But we have homegrown investors, and they are also increasing by the day. In the last couple of years, I've seen more and more local investors who are now actively investing locally. For many of them that I know, they probably also don't do big ticket size. Many of them right now are still doing smaller ticket sizes because the size of their fund is actually limited in the first place. So they want to do small ticket size in multiple companies to spread their risk at the moment. But yeah, we have quite a number of them, at least some of them, and they are increasing by the day. And they are investing in African businesses, which is very impressive.
Do you think that African businesses are more risky?
Do I think that African businesses are more risky? Sincerely, I do not think so. I think that African businesses have a lot of potential to grow and sometimes even more potential than we imagine because we are in a space where they say that where we have the most problem, that's where we have the most opportunity. And here we have the most problem, and it seems like there's more opportunity. I mean, if when they invite me about a week ago, I was invited to speak with some new founders at an incubator, sort of. And one of the things I told those guys is that there are a lot of opportunities in Africa. We do not have nearly as much competition as you have in the UK or in the US. We do not have a lot of competition here. You can easily start your business, easily grow your business, and easily dominate the market. The market is green. I mean the opportunity it's just really green. So I told them that if you start a business, put in all of your effort, all of your energy into your business. Keep your eyes on the ball. If there are so much challenges, so many problems, but once you're able to surmount them, you just really find yourself at the top.
That's that's a really great image that you've given for Africa. It's something like I have limited experience, but it's kind of you what you said went down the line of what my instincts were rolling towards. That there is just so much opportunity there, and it is purely just it's almost just being dismissed because of the stereotypes that go along with Africa that I must admit I had before I went, and I was pleasantly surprised. Um, so on the you mentioned being monopolies, are there other marketplaces that are doing the same as your company?
Yes. So do we have competitors? Yes, we have competitors, right? So first, other marketplaces that are not niche based, like Afrimash, that sell all other kinds of items, they already compete with us because they're able to list some of the items that we sell. Maybe not everything that we sell to farmers, but they have some of those things. They may not have all the channels that we have, but online we have competition from the general marketplaces. Like I don't know if you're familiar with the likes of like Jumia or Konga or Gigi, so we have competition from them. We have overlapping products online. And then even though Afrimash is we are leading right now when it comes to a marketplace for agriculture inputs in Nigeria. Afrimash is the leading platform. But again, we have quite a number of startups that are springing up who also are doing what we are doing at the moment, and they are learning from us and improvising and trying to grow. So uh, in the last maybe last 2 years, I probably would have seen more than 30 different platforms that are now doing exactly what we're doing. But that's not usually a problem because the what business is really about is really the competition. The competition comes to make everybody stronger. It makes us to define our unique value proposition and makes us to improve the value of service that we deliver to our customers. So that's always good, and that has helped us in many ways because that's helping us to define and redefine how we service our customers, how we meet their needs, how the channels that we use, and then we listen to them more deeply because at the end of the day, our mission is to make agriculture convenient for everyone. And that's just really our focus. Yeah.
I love the one liner, make agriculture convenient for everyone. Do you see it happening by yourself and Afrimash and by your competitors? Do you think farming is becoming more convenient?
I think farming is becoming more convenient. What we have brought to the market today, I did not have this when I was running my farm. I have people, I mean, with the when with the way farmers can easily come to our platform, place their order and we deliver to them, I think that farming is becoming more and more convenient for them. One of the things that did not happen when I was running my farm also was I wish that there was a virtual platform that had enough credibility to supply quality products to me or exactly what I asked for. But before Afrimash, all that we had was Facebook. There, there were a lot of forums on Facebook where farmers were talking with each other and a lot of scams were going on. And then Afrimash came on the scene and said, you want to buy farm inputs, come to Afrimash. If the item doesn't get to you, we'll refund your money 100%. If the item is damaged in the way, we'll compensate you. If you have any issue, call us or call our customer service. You are the number one priority. Everybody left Facebook and came to Afrimash. Right? It's much better than it used to be.
Was the scam thing, is that a really big issue in agriculture then?
Scam is always an issue in an informal marketplace. So what happened on Facebook and most of those platforms was they were mainly informal marketplaces, and it was possible for you to want to buy a black, let's say a black item, and then you pay for it. The supplier promises that it will supply you a black item, and then you pay for it, and then by the time the item gets to you, the color is not black. The color is actually gray or it's actually red, and you are buying black because you know that on your farm, if you use a red colored item, you will be attacked by maybe cattle or by you have the reason why you are buying black, but the supplier supplies you what he has, right? So scam is normal in informal marketplaces. So what we are doing is to formalize those marketplaces so that we can reduce scam, also regulate the marketplaces. And one of the things that a platform like ours also does for the government is that now we pay taxes. In informal marketplaces, you don't pay taxes. Now we are regulated by the government. We pay our taxes. We are registered with the government. Everything is just everything is more transparent than it used to be. So my point actually is that it is not particularly because it's agriculture that we had scam. It was because it was informal marketplace. And as long as we have informal marketplaces, there will be scam until someone comes in and brings in structure and transparency. Then scam can begin to reduce.
Okay. One thing I'm really curious about is how do you envision agriculture in Africa in the future? When I was in Africa, I was surprised by the different systems to get to solve the same problems that uh, everyone in the world faces. So for money, you had mobile money. For transportation, there was the Boda Boda moto taxis. Do you think there are some real unique aspects of agriculture in Africa that will develop? And if you have an idea of what they are, could you say what they are?
When you say unique, okay, I'll tell you what I think, and then you can clarify if I've answered the question, right? When I think about agriculture in Africa, what I see is that right now we have 80% smallholder farmers. These are some of them are subsistence farmers, raising, running their farms just for their families. Some of them have just really very small farms, even though they sell to the market, but the farms are really small. 80% of them are smallholder farmers. And Afrimash sells both small and medium-sized farmers. So we take a piece of these 80% smallholder farmers. But as we navigate into the future, I see the percentage of smallholder farmers that we have begin to decline, and we have a bigger and more robust middle-sized farmers. That's the first level that we will have. And then as we progress further into the future, that these middle-sized farmers also will begin to decline and would have more of large-sized farmers, which is what we see in developed world. They have more large farms, large-sized farmers, and less of medium and small. But we cannot move from small to very large. We would move first from small to medium and then to large. And if you study the history of agriculture, what typically happens is that small sized farmers begin to fizzle out over time as the farmers begin to take up jobs in as the world becomes industrialized, and then there are remote jobs. Those farmers begin to take up other kind of jobs, and small sized farmers begin to decline and to reduce. We have the medium sized farmers, and then from there we now begin to have mainly large sized farmers. And I think the future of the world is really the large sized farmers.
Okay. Do you see this starting to happen in any places in Africa?
Even in Nigeria, in the last 1 year, I see that we are having more and more medium-sized farmers. I see that the medium-sized farmers pool is increasing. The small-sized farmers pool is reducing. Also, with the plenty of support from the government and DFIs, all these grants coming in to help farmers to grow. So some small-sized farmers are able to grow from small to medium, whereas the farms that remain perpetually small are consistently having issues. At Afrimash, those are people that we see have most of the issues right now, the small size farmers. But the medium sized farmers are progressing and becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. So I see that happening right here in Nigeria, right before my eyes already.
And how do you classify medium-sized farms? How big are these farms?
So for us, we have both livestock farmers and crop farmers. So when it comes to crop farmers, anyone who has less than 2 acre or 1 acre are typically classified as small size farmers. And then people that have more than 2 acres are classified as medium sized farmers. But when you begin to have more than 50 acres and above, you begin to classify them as large sized farmers. In fact, in some places, 50 acres is still classified as medium sized farmers. So, but for small size farmers, once you have less than 2 acres, we recognize you as a small size farmer. And then in poultry, which is one area that Afrimash plays a lot, when you have less than 1,000 birds, we see you as a small size farmer. But when you have more than 1,000 birds, we classify you as medium sized farmer. The distinction between medium sized and large sized farmers, I think, in my opinion, is not very clear, both for livestock and for crop. So I do not want to be very um, plain with that because in various settings that I've been into, different people have different way of classifying um, medium to large size farmers. But for the small size farmers, I think that's clearly cut. Once you have less than 2 acres, we're a small size farm.
Okay, that's thank you for clarifying that, because that's always a point of confusion, and some people have their own definitions as well. Just mindful of the time, I always end these conversations by asking if there are two other startups that you think are doing really interesting work that you think I should talk to. Do any names come to mind?
Yeah, two names come to mind. I have a friend and a colleague, Zoacell. I'm not sure, Jerry Oche, if you have spoken with him. Um, Emeka is also familiar with Zoacell. You would know him. Zoacell, the founder is Jerry Oche.
Okay.
And then I can also recommend a brother and a friend, Michael, Crop to Cash. I can send you all of their contacts. Crop to Cash, Michael. You should speak to him.
That'd be great. Okay, thank you so much, Ayo. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation. This has been really insightful for me. I've taken a lot away from it. And I've already told you that my middle name is also Ayo. So we've got that in common.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it is beautiful. Happy to hear that, man. Now I have a namesake. Beautiful. Thank you. I totally enjoyed the session and I'm happy. Thank you for inviting me. I hope that this session is going to be helpful for whoever is going to be listening to this session. Really. But thank you very much, and I wish you the very best in the other subsequent sessions that you have.
Thank you so much. And I look forward to getting in contact with everyone that you've mentioned and having a conversation like this with them too. I hope you have a great day, Ayo.
And you too. Please enjoy the rest of the day. I'll send you the contact on LinkedIn or by email.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. See ya.